Now that's how you start a show, baby. That's how you start a show. Oh man!
Well, hey, now
everybody.
how come now, real fast? Why don't you throw the music on there?
Well, I did. Their music was on there.
Oh, they heard the music. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I didn't get to hear you guys. I didn't get to rock out.
Those of you guys that are watching with us right now, throw something in the chat if you heard the music of our neon freaking lightning Thor logo.
all my trolls just start filing in here soon, so give me some feedback.
Oh, yes. Welcome everyone to Get With The Programming, a very special live edition of our podcast, and we have two very special guests. Alongside with me is Bill Grundler, but we have Tyler Watkins and Brian Friend. I almost said Taylor Wilkins,
dude,
because we've been
saying it all the time.
We've been messing that up all the last few days, but we want to thank you guys for joining us here on YouTube Live. You can comment in the chat. Wow, that intro. Guess what we can do, Teddy? Check this shit
you're
out.
The first one that
Boom,
pops up
Teddy's
there.
on the screen.
Look at that.
What's up, Teddy? All right. Hey, gentlemen, thank you for joining us.
Yes, sir.
Brian, how you doing, buddy?
I'm doing all right.
I like that beard.
Hey,
Thanks.
I'm gonna throw this out there.
The beard's gotten to the point now where the face recognition doesn't work on the phone.
Oh no!
Yeah,
come on.
Different guy.
I was gonna say the beard was giving you all kinds of power because I was watching your little Bella complex that you were working on.
Yes, one of the guys at the gym told me as soon as I shave the beard, I'll lose all the strength.
You will.
Well,
I mean, it's
why I
that
won't
chalk.
cut my hair.
Beards and chalk. That's
there
what
you
happens.
go. There you go. Well, we are here because of this man to the top right. I'm assuming you guys see what we see. But Mr. Taylor Watkins posted an article. Gosh,
you said it. You said it.
Mr. Tyler.
He's not going to be able to get it right now.
I'm
just
sorry.
Say TW
I
and
should
save
not
it. TW.
I was gonna make a joke that like most men want to be remembered when they die. My goal is to just no one remember me. I just muddy my name until
just have your name incorrect on the tombstone as they bury you. But Tyler, sorry, you wrote an article in the Morning Chalk Up talking about a proposal of a new scoring system, and you used the Rogue Invitational as an example, and you used Haley Adams as your athlete with something called a Z-score, and that immediately grabbed my attention, and I hit up Bill as soon as I read it. We've gone through the programming of every single CrossFit Games all the way back to 2007, and Brian, you'd probably have these numbers, but I want to say the scoring system in 15 years has changed 8 or 9 times, and cuts make a big difference
times?
15 times. And what we had found, and this is to another super stat man, Chad Schroeder, had broken down things based off the scoring system that they used, also with what the leaderboard would have looked like if they did average place finishing, and every year something was different between the two. And so there was a few years where the scoring system really had a massive outcome on not just say a top 10, but oftentimes podium positions. And Tyler, your system also had the same effect at the Rogue Invitational. So before we get into things, I want you to really explain what caught your eye, why this was something that you were passionate about riding, and where the baseline precipice was to do this.
So this goes back a long time for me. It goes back to about 2017 when Tia beat Cara. I have like made my own CrossFit Games fantasy system or fantasy games. Yes. And so I drafted Cara and I got beat. And I was like, this doesn't, I'm not a fan of losing, but it really did seem to me at the end of the weekend that Cara beat Tia. She seemed fitter on almost every way. And when she lost, she only barely lost. Mm-hmm. And so, I mean, I guess I went with an intent to find something, but I did end up finding after like maybe 6 months of just hitting my head against the table trying to figure out a system in which we could accurately score each event and the points that people deserved based on their fitness and based on their performance, right? Whereas now you're just given points based on your placement. You know,
and it's important. It's important to mention that it's relative to the field too.
Right. Yeah, I think a lot of people screw that up. Is that I'm trying to make guesses about what people should be able to do on an event period, and that is not the fact. I'm just trying to judge everybody based on the field that they are in, and so I went through this for a long time. I approached it different ways. I approached it linearly, where you base every score off the top score, maybe the top time or the top weight. And then I started to think, man, you are trying a lot harder once you get past a certain point in a workout. Say, Fran, once you get past 2:30, every second you go faster is way harder. Or every second you take off is way harder. And like in the opposite direction, it's way easier if you go way slower. And so I wanted to take something in consideration that will give you more points for doing much better than other people. And so that's when I happened into a normal distribution system and Z-score.
So with that, real fast, do you have a background in statistics or anything like that?
My education history is long. I went to engineering school for 3 years. Took a year off and came back and did accounting. And so my math background's pretty good.
Well, because it sounded very similar to, and this has come up a lot of times in our discussions, is like decathlon scoring.
Yes.
Same type of thing where all of a sudden like events aren't worth the same. They aren't worth the same, or you get these different numbers. It's not a set number. I thought it was super interesting when you brought it up, because I was like, I mean, it sounded very professional. I'm like, oh, it's a Z-score. I'm like, I've heard that somewhere. I don't know where. So that's why I didn't know if it was pure statistics based, or if you know of any other sports that's doing anything like that.
I brought it. I didn't know about the decathlete thing. I brought it simply because I remember hearing about Z-score when I first started college, and I was like, man, that would be a shitty way to be scored on a test. Like, because if you were in the middle, it would get out that you were in the middle. Basically, you would just be an average student, and I was deathly scared of that. So I remember thinking, oh yeah, this is how you can rate your performance based on what everybody else in this is doing. And so that was how I stumbled upon it.
Well, the thing I liked about it the most was by the time we got to the end of our Analyzing the Programming series for the CrossFit Games, the question came up with me and Bill was, is there a better way to score this? Because we've seen the programming do its job. The programming is finding, or the test is supposed to find the fittest person. And what I also like, and this is personal to me, is that I know Dave's sole goal is to find the fittest man, woman, and team. And that's it. And he doesn't really care about what happens below that. But I like to see the fittest field order from 1 to 40. Who is number 1, who is 40, and what the test got us to there. And what me and Bill found was that the scoring system would often change things from that position. And you made this a point in your article, was that you're looking at it from the idea of, and I really like what you said there, was the cash prizes has changed so much is that it's very important that we have a system that lines people up from fittest to not as fittest, even though they're, 40th place is still a superhuman compared to 99.9% of the population. But the prize money is a big part for these athletes, maybe not those in charge and what they're trying to test. So we couldn't think of anything. The closest we would get was, Bill, I remember we were talking about like how decathlons are scored.
Right.
Decathlons are scored based off performance to a criteria that is almost it's not off world record, but it's off of what is almost like humanly possible. It's a weird scoring system, but your performance is based off that baseline. And so you get a certain amount of points based off your performance, how close you get to that. And so when I saw your Z score, that was something that I was like, okay, so now it's performance based to the field that is taking the test, and it puts you in order based off your performance relative to what you have as your baseline is whoever gets first, right? Is that your baseline?
They have standards.
Okay.
Yeah, they have standards. It seems the difference between mine and them is they have standards that you should be able to match up to. And since they do these same events all the time, that shouldn't really change until somebody sets a new world record or whatever.
Right.
For us, that shit changes every second.
Right. Yeah.
And so, yeah, I needed to scale it to the field and to the event every single time. And so that would be the only difference between me and them. Me and the decathlon.
Now, and if there are any other people out there that are do the man, there's some funny things that pop up in those comments.
Yeah, don't look at that one.
I haven't.
Okay.
Come on, don't look at that one that just popped up.
Nice.
The decathlon one, I don't know it well enough, honestly, to argue it, but I've heard it come up in our own conversations, and it seems like that one changes fairly regularly also, even though they're trying to do the same type of thing where it's, compared to the standard or the field or whatever they're trying to do it. I thought yours was really interesting in that it does the statements you made about where someone just barely got beat should get more points than someone that got their ass handed to them. If it was only like 4, it's like, oh, okay, I beat you by 2 seconds, but I beat the third place person by 30 seconds. So they shouldn't only get 5 points less than the person that got second or however it is. They should be like further down the field. And it's a really interesting idea. I mean, I have to say personally, I was not going to let this conversation be yeah, man, that's great. Love it. One, because that's not me. But two, it seems like no matter where you draw the line, someone like, it doesn't matter where you put the line. Someone's always going to be on the bubble and someone's always going to get screwed.
Right.
And that's why, I didn't have even enough time to even look at, is it fair? Because in no other sports do they do that. It's always like, did you win or did you lose? Done. Did you trip or did you not trip? Did you succeed or did you not succeed? And I mean, it's harsh, I guess, but like, I don't know. I mean, Brian, you need to keep it down because you're way too loud right now, dude. And I know you got like numbers boiling in your head. So keep it down while I'm talking, okay? Jeez.
Well, I've talked to Tyler several times about this, and so I just wanted to, let him catch you guys up, whatever you needed to know. And I have some stuff to share later on.
Oh, I can't wait, Tyler. For those that didn't see the article or know exactly how the Z score operates, just walk us through a real baseline way of how each event scored.
I should lay out my thesis in general. I've thought about this a lot over the past couple days since I've spoken about this a few times now. The CrossFit Games has made the statement that they are finding the fittest on earth, and that is what I'm taking issue with. If you don't want to make that claim, that's fine. Take it off your sign. If you want to just run a competition, you can score it the way you want to score it. But the issue is they score based on a standard model, 3 points, 4 points, going down the list from 196 and so on and so forth. I'm saying that the difference, if you win by an inch or you win by a mile, should be measured. in that field. So what I do basically, I have made my own model in which I think we can replace the current system. There are other models that could exist. I just want to have the conversation that we should be measuring fitness when we are stating that we are finding the fittest on earth. So what I've done is in any given event, say it's a clean and jerk event or like the snatch event we saw at the Rogue Invitational, I take every single score that ends up getting posted on the leaderboard. I find the average and the standard deviation in that model. I then plot it against, I find a normal distribution using all that data, and then I find where the person finished percentile wise in that system. Okay. Or in that field. That's all I'm doing.
So you take that percentile and then you weigh it against a 100-point system. Is that what I saw you
so
use?
For instance, like in event one, the swim kayak in the 2021 games, Justin Medeiros' percentile finish in that was actually 84, right?
Oh, okay.
But because the top time, which was Yonakoski, Yonakoski is a better example. Yonakoski got 98th percentile, right? So the model predicted that you could have went faster than Yonakoski went, and we could argue that Yonakoski could have easily gone faster than he went, right?
He didn't race anybody.
Right. And so,
which is actually an extremely relevant point as this conversation evolves. So just hold on to that.
Yeah.
Okay.
So Yonakoski got 98th percentile in that. I wanted to play nice with all the CrossFitters. I know we like 100 points. And so what you do is you divide all the other scores and his score by 98. So it gives him 100 points and everybody goes down the list. Okay. So then it squishes like all this data into like this nice tight range.
Right. So his percentile isn't going to be the points. It's he finished in the 98th, but he finished top of that. So he gets those 100 points.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And then everybody else's score is based off of his. And this was an argument, or not an argument, but this was the point that I had to make the other day. So my system is based off both the average and the top score.
Okay.
I'm scaling them on those two factors.
How do you scale for, say, time caps, or is it just based off work completed?
Let's go Brian's route first.
Okay. I see a sidestep there. Whoa.
Because so it's like we're now talking about the issues of the system. Mm-hmm. And what the point you just made, that's an issue with the current system we have. How do you deal with people who are time capped? They had to have had that conversation at some point in the game. So, oh shit, somebody didn't finish it. What do we give them? No points? Do we give them 5 points? Like, what do we do? Oh shit, 14 of them didn't finish this event. How do we do this? And so my system, I have a few arguments for that, but what I would like to do first is talk about the top end.
Okay.
So what it does in the middle is it groups everybody together. Everybody who finishes similarly will have tighter points, right? And then at the top, those people will start to pull away and their point difference will be greater, a lot like we see now. And then at the bottom, it not like exaggerate.
Potentially way more dramatically than we see now.
Right. If your fitness deserves so. And then at the bottom, they will pull away even more dramatically from the average, right? And so there are several different things that you can do to solve for time caps. There's a certain one that I like, and then Adam Rogers, who's been huge in helping me flesh out all these issues, he has another. Mine is based on logistics. Dave Castro has immense control of the games. He can do basically whatever he wants.
Yeah.
He should be weary of those time caps, because I think that he could scale it to a point to where if you don't finish, you get 0 points. Because in my system, if you finish really low and you pull the average down, you have a bad effect on the data. Okay. And so what I'm saying is, what is the least acceptable performance that we deem necessary, right? To be at the games, you need to run an X 5K. If you can't run that, you don't get a score. You're not fit enough to even have data in this realm.
Oh, okay.
Right? There is another way to do it, and it is just simply using my system. So say you had an AMRAP, or not an AMRAP. Say you had 5 rounds for time of whatever, okay? And the end buzzer goes off, and someone had 4 rounds. Like 10 people in a field of 40 had 10 or 4 rounds plus, right? You would do a split system where you did it based on reps. So you would find an average and a standard deviation based on reps, and give the points out based on the percentage of the field that didn't finish. And then you would do the same thing for time. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So then do you take an average of those two numbers? If you're doing the whole,
no.
Are you talking, so if those that finish are on one scale, those that didn't finish on another scale?
No, it's a combined scale. So say we split the field 50-50. 50 finished, or half finished, half didn't, right?
Okay.
So you would split the points up. 50 points would be available to those who finish, or for based on the reps. So all the people who finished would get 50 points automatically, and then the other 50 points would break out based on how you finished in time, right?
Oh, okay.
So it's an additive system.
Yeah.
Got it.
Points based on Does that make sense?
Yeah. All right. So looking at this system, I think the best examples will be examples of where the scoring has a massive change on the leaderboard and how. So, and I think that's what, a lot of people want to see is like, hey, what effect does this have on it? And so the example that you had in your article was that Haley Adams at the Rogue Invitational, who finished 5th, based off this scoring system, would have placed 3rd because of the deviation of performance based off the ones she did well in, and then the ones that she didn't do well in, because the ones she did well in, she crushed everybody when she did it. And, she would have been rewarded for that performance more relative to the 5, 10, 15 point score drops that they had at the Invitational.
Right. And another way of putting it is based on the field, she didn't do as poorly as it seemed in points. But so like the big one was her complex. She actually wasn't that far off. I think Brian's buddy, what's his name? John?
Yeah, John Young.
Yeah, John pointed this out. If she had added like 10 pounds to that complex, she would have been right in the mix with everybody else.
Okay.
And so it's like her points overstated how
10 more points, 10 more pounds would have netted her 45 more points in that workout.
45?
Yeah, Jacqueline Dahlstrom did 222 for the complex and earned 55 points in the Rogue scoring system. She lifted 212 pounds for the complex and scored 10.
Oh, wow. Okay. That's a dramatic change.
Check this out. Even just 5 more pounds would have gained her 25 more points.
Man. All right. So
which is saying that she's right near the middle, or she's right near a grouping where she's right near the average. And so as she adds pounds, she does huge performance gains, right? And so this would break it out more evenly to where she's not very far away from the median or the mean. Right?
But if she was in the median, let's say she was in the middle and she added 10 pounds, that's not going to be a 40-point increase, right? It's because she was below the bell curve, right? That's why you said like on the top end, there's the big stretch. On the bottom end, there's the big stretch, and everyone else in the middle is going to be real squished together. So if there's a 10-pound swing on those people that are right at the top end of that bell curve, it's not going to be as massive for everyone. Like if anyone else put 10 pounds on their bar, they aren't necessarily going to gain 40 points, correct?
Right. It depends where. So what we're doing is we're converting from one system to the other. But yeah, if she had added 10 pounds because of where she sat on the bell curve in real life, she would have jumped that much. But if you had been in the middle, it wouldn't have been the same jump. Yeah, you're correct.
Well, because I think it's important to know, just like if anyone is like, oh man, if I just put 10 more pounds on there, I would have jumped 40 points, and that's not. You got to remember that it's on that. It's on that bell curve that when we're talking about this system.
Okay.
Right. Well, it wouldn't have made. Go ahead.
She still didn't lift the same as that woman, but in Tyler's system, relative to the field, she would have gained 21 less points than person who lifted 10 pounds more than her instead of 45 less points.
Right.
Okay.
The numbers get difficult.
Well, in understandable, but it makes sense
Right.
once you do see it on paper, which, you've given examples about that we got to look through. My biggest questions are, what in the really like history that we've had of the games on like games that had controversial endings, or which games really would have had massive changes using this system?
The one that I feel most confident in pointing out is the 2017 games with Tia and Kara.
Okay.
If you do it, it flips and Kara takes a sizable lead above Tia. The other one that I'm less confident about talking about is between Matt and Rich.
Okay.
When I did the analysis, it flips to where Matt only won by 10 points, and I am not comfortable in arguing that 10 points.
Okay. So we do have some questions to start. And Bill, this is to one of your questions. I'll throw it up here. Teddy asks, is the baseball team the fittest in the World Series? Now, this is where you have to create, and for me is like, you have to create a separation between regular sports,
other sports,
and what CrossFit is doing. Because even at the Olympics, as Bill said, is like, you either win or you don't. And that's the end. It's like, yes, maybe for the 100-meter dash, but not the decathlon. And this is what the CrossFit Games is. The CrossFit Games is a multi-event sport of, 10 when you're at the Olympics, and you get scored individually on 10 different ones. And the scoring system adjusts to your performance based off that. Now, if this was football, basketball, baseball, running track, 100-meter swimming, any of that stuff, I get it. Like, the best on earth, you win whenever your opportunity is, but that's a one-off. That's a one-off competition. It's a one-off race. It's a one-off sport. That is not what CrossFit is. CrossFit is a multi-sport event. And so you need to make sure is that not only is the programming designed to be fully balanced when you're testing the fittest on earth, but you don't want to make sure is that the scoring system takes away or hinders in any way the test itself.
And I'll hop on that. And Teddy, he was the one that threw up the question about the baseball team. I will say, I am a purist when it comes to sport where you either win or you lose. If I beat you by an inch or I beat you by a mile, I beat you. Done. I know that in CrossFit we have it's multifaceted. We got a lot of moving pieces, a lot of things to score. But I think it's also important to remember that however the scoring system is, and we have looked at so many different systems. I mean, when we were doing the games, I think, at least for the early ones, for sure, we would have what they scored, the one before that, and then we would do the average placing. And every single time there was going to be an adjustment, not necessarily on the winner, but there was always an adjustment in the field and some big swings in the field just on those. And it wasn't even as statistically strong is what Tyler has going on. But I think that even though it's not a one-off sport, each of the events can be scored in, whether it's a lifting event, whether it's a long endurance event, whether it's an interval event, that they need to make sure that they're all scored equally and that one event doesn't carry more weight than the other one, so that you can put them all together and get that. Because even I mean, I guess even with the point system, you're still, you're not taking an average because you're not dividing it by the number of sports events or anything like that. You're just taking a pure number, but you're still trying to add the numbers up together so you get a complete version. Because one of the first things I heard or I thought of when I was looking at Tyler's article was, in his article, you said that if someone wins by 30 seconds in a relatively short race, they are more fit. Or when someone lifts more, they are more fit. And in our definition of fitness, that doesn't necessarily mean that they're more fit. It just means that they are better at that sport, or maybe they're a specialist in that particular event. That's why Haley does so well in endurance events, because she's an endurance strong athlete, but not a strength-based athlete relative to the field.
It's
a tough one for me, because I feel I don't disagree with your system. In fact, I like how you laid it out. I think it could get a little complicated with everybody, but I like what it is, but I'm very much like, hey, look, if I beat you, I beat you. I personally don't like that you get extra points for being in the top 3. It's like you
with
penalize for doing
bad.
Right. I don't like
Okay.
If you win, you win. Like, you got your win. Not that like I win and so now I should get extra points because I won. Like, I already did my job. I won. You know, that's
Are we measuring capacity or are we not?
absolutely.
Yes.
Yeah.
Then we need to measure it more scientifically.
Okay.
And I'm not disagreeing with that. I'm not disagreeing. I like your system. I will say this. I am more
against your.
No. I am more in agreement with your system than the other ones that have been out there, other than first, second, third, fourth, fifth, and you take your place. You win, you do whatever. So it's not. I like what it is. I like the scientificness of it. I kind of feel that if we have 15 events, we're getting our average across the board of who's the fittest. Even if we're not like Z'd out. I don't know.
Z'd out.
I'm glad Dave Castro showed up for this conversation. he's arguing Dave's point. That's what Dave's point is.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's fair. And for the most part, almost all the games that I've run across, except for the 2, the fittest is crowned the fittest, which speaks to the validity of my model more than it speaks against it. Brian, what do you got?
Well, one of the conversations that people often have about Rich Froning and Matt Fraser is the way that they went about winning. And what I saw from Rich Froning was Rich understood the system that was presented to him and therefore competed to win within that system. And he didn't care. And he never cared about how many events he won or how much he won by. He just knew that by the end of the weekend, I needed to find my way on top in this model. Fraser had a different mentality, or so it seems, where he literally hated getting second place in any event. And he was striving to win every event. I don't know if he was striving to win the events by as much as he could or not, which would have been beneficial in your model. But when you look back, at least in my eyes, when I look back at the 2014 season, I completely throw away any kind of reevaluating the scoring system to say that Matt might have beaten Rich there, because I think that Rich would have trained and performed differently had he known this system.
Right. I agree.
And I think that is ultimately what needs, whatever this, 2 things need to happen. One is they should be, the CrossFit Games should be asking this question: is there a better way to score this? And they should continually, I think, be open-minded to receiving input from wherever they can to see and evaluate and check for themselves and ask that question.
Well, it's not like they haven't changed it enough times anyway, so it's like, why not give it a try for a year?
Why not?
Yeah, but I always have wondered, why are they making those changes? Because a lot of the, it seemed like a lot of the changes were not in the vein of what Tyler is suggesting, which is to let science or fitness tell the story through science, tell the story of fitness, I guess would be the way that he would say it. Anyway, if and when a scoring system does change, and particularly in the case of Tyler's, you have it will dramatically change the way that athletes train and prepare, I think.
Yeah.
That was what I was after. Yeah.
I agree. I mean, and that's a great point, Brian, is that Rich just did that when he competed. It's like he just looked around and is like, okay, what do I need to do to win? Do I need to speed up? Do I need to slow down? I just want my 100 points. And I think that is one of the hard things to I would love to see the system on a fresh field, right? Because it is a little unfair to it's interesting. It's very interesting to just overlay it on a past competition. But as Brian said, is like those athletes would completely change the way they compete, knowing what the system is, especially those in the lead. And I think especially those that are in the middle of the pack, right? It's like if I fall too far behind, because there's a lot of people that's like, listen, I'm getting last, so I'm going to get my 15 points or whatever. And one of the examples, I'm not sure if you guys did this or not. I would be shocked if Brian didn't do this. But if you took this to the 2015 CrossFit Games and you took this to the pegboard and you looked at all those that decided to go, I'm just going to wait for part 2, and what score they would have got and how that would have changed the outcome of the games. Because the problem there was that was one of the biggest examples I think I've ever seen of the scoring system totally determining who won the games that year.
People got points for not doing a damn thing.
I think people got 42 points for doing nothing.
Yeah.
I think it's in the 50s, and it was, and the thing that bothered me the most was some of them just decided to not even try,
right?
And that was acceptable within the model that year, and so they were playing within the rules, but the rules I think ended up with not getting the result that you wanted.
Yeah.
Hey, something I gotta throw out because you brought up the point, Tyler, of scientifically finding the fittest, and as you said it, which is a great point. As you said that, I just was kind of flipping through all the different sports in my head of what scoring system of any sport scientifically finds out what it is. Like scientifically, who said that a touchdown is 6 points versus a touchback is 2 points, which is field goal is a 1. I mean, like whatever the scoring system is, like soccer is 1-on-1. You get it in the thing, you get 1 point. If you get more than those, then you win. I don't know if there's a scientific setup.
This
isn't soccer,
a scientific experiment with a game. We've taken the two and combined them. So it's like, who can do the most muscle ups, or how many muscle ups is the human body? We're concerned with what the human body can do, right? And on average, across all kinds of modalities, what can the human body sustain, right? That is the question that we're after. What is possible that the human body can do? Okay. And then we said, all right, we're going to get a bunch of people to compete and do it. Cause that's, it's kind of like capitalism. It's the easiest way to solve the problem. Right. and so you're blurring the games.
I don't think that's the right way to look at it, Bill. Personally.
I disagree because again, the second, and we've talked about this all the time. There's
a completely
CrossFit,
different sport.
There's
it's not
CrossFit.
Sport.
It is.
No,
the second you get into competition, it's
more
here
like
to
swimming.
beat you. What's that?
It's more like swimming or running. It's like they're worried. CrossFit.
I would say it's less like that because it's not a one-off. I would say it's more like the all-around in the Olympics for the gymnastics or something.
It's a scientifically based fitness program, and it's a test of that fitness program. What are you talking about?
It's a scientifically based fitness program, but we're not talking about the fitness program. We're talking about sport, the sport of fitness.
So now we're asking the question what we're after. And
You're right.
This is the problem.
Yeah.
We don't know what we're trying to get. Are we just trying to get the $250,000 or $350,000?
See, and I don't even want to talk about the money part. Like, because to me, if you're trying to find the money is great for the field. I mean, obviously the athletes, they need that to do the thing and all. Like I want the athletes to get the money. I don't think you should base the scoring system based on who's going to get what money. I don't think that shouldn't go into your thing.
I think you should find a way of. It's important to find the right order because now that has been a more important piece of the puzzle. It has nothing to do with the test of fitness. It's just a small piece of why he's doing this.
I got a question for you guys, especially since Bill and Chase, you guys have both competed at very high level in this sport. One of the things I think about is what do people want to see happen on the field of play? And then as an athlete, is that, how would that affect your ability to perform? Because I think that people want to see the athletes do what they can do. I mean, if you took a poll of people at Rogue Invitational, I would say that a majority of them were disappointed that Guy didn't go for a third lift in the Bella Complex. People want to see the heaviest weights go up. He had no incentive to put any weight on the bar. But in this scoring system, he would have, because every extra pound that he stretches up the top end, he's going to not just get more points from the second place guy, he's going to get more points than the entire field every pound he improves his performance. Yeah. You think about a Ionikowski, and we talked about it earlier. He doesn't have to race the second half of the race. He could just coast it in, rest up, and that's why I want your guys' perspective. If he sells out on that swim or paddle at the end of it, to stretch that lead instead of to, let's say, 3 minutes to 5 minutes, and then he nets himself an extra 20 points, not against the second place guy, against every other guy going into the next event. Right. But what's the cost on the way out of doing that, of racing those extra 2 minutes faster?
I mean, if you went based off just my competition experience, the only reason why I made the freaking CrossFit Games is because of something like this. We had a standard deviation scoring system at regionals. And so the way I performed better than the field is the reason why I got to where I got. I think if it was a standard scoring system, I don't really know where I would have placed. And that changed
numbers?
The way I compete. Do I have them?
No, you've never looked at those numbers? I'm surprised, actually.
I mean, I would just...
He didn't want to know.
I made it. I don't care.
I made it, but like that was that. And to your question though, Brian, that was part of the way I competed, because I was like, I need to freaking sell out and just crush everybody in the one I can, and just get as close as I can to the middle of the pack in the one I'm going to be bad at. So yeah, that completely changed the way I competed. But I'm on the complete opposite side of the fence of the collective group of saying this is a sport is not. I do not agree whatsoever.
It's funny. I looked do you guys do this anymore? When you meet someone new, do you leaderboard them?
Yeah, every time.
Yeah. I was like, who's the fittest on this podcast? 2021.
It's
Bill.
Bill.
It's Bill.
Yeah, it's Bill.
But anyway, I looked at your numbers.
I'm just the oldest on the podcast. I don't know.
You're also the fittest, which it fucking drives me crazy.
Yeah. Chase, your fitness numbers are incredible. And I say this as gingerly as I can, considering your strength.
Thank you.
Dude, he would have said that anyways. He would have.
You're not going to hurt my feelings, bro.
Yeah, that's him. He knows that.
But it shows. So if you trained like that, like there's only so much I can do to fix my strength. I need to just get as good as I can at it, but I can't pour all my time into it. But I'm really good at this motor stuff, right? Mm-hmm. And
that's how I train. I was like, I'm not going to get top 10 in this event ever, no matter how much I train.
So I'm not going to put too much energy into it. Yeah.
No, I'm just going to not get in the bottom 10, and I'm going to go and win the other 4 events. That was the way I approached training and competition.
That's what this system incentivizes, is to get best at what you're
I knew I liked this system.
But still it still asks you to take care of your weaknesses, and you're still going to be punished for them, and more drastically. But if you're average at almost everything and really good at a few things, you'll get paid for it.
Okay.
Okay. Question real fast. Have you overlaid this on the last couple games? Just have an idea?
Yes.
Where was Pat Vellner on these? Someone that goes from last to like top and ends up third. Like how hard?
What do you mean?
What do you mean
last?
Well, okay. Well, you know what I mean. He always has that first event that he like puts himself in the hole. He gets like 30th, whatever.
Gotcha.
And then he hops back up. So he's way below the curve, right? I mean, at least I would think with that. I haven't looked at the curve. I don't know what the numbers are, the deviations, but like someone like that. Okay, take Jordan Troyan. First in the swim, last in the overhead squat.
Like a boss.
That was 14, right?
Yeah. Something like that.
something like that. Like, where would that person end up when you have a drastic on either end? Does it just kind of average out?
Pat still finished second in 2021.
Okay.
Oh, really? Even with the system?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean,
Justin was so like, damn consistent, man. Like,
yeah, in the CrossFit points, he got 12 points for the swim kayak event, which was murderous on him, right? And
yeah.
And in mine, he got 9.45.
Okay.
So it's like he did a little worse, but he still made up for it.
I want to know.
Yeah.
What was I going to say? I want to know what some of the biggest, I would say, vocal criticism I've seen from people, whether it's warranted or not, which is why I'm going to ask you guys this, is that people say it seems to favor specialists. And I feel like that's not necessarily true. It's like specialists will get their event, but if they're still shit at all the other ones, it's not going to matter. Does this system favor specialists over generalists?
I think that on the one hand, it encourages specialists to perform well on or as well as they can on the things that they're good at, and that's like, because that's what I was kind of referring to earlier, is you're going to see in this model, you're going to see at the top end better performances in every workout. You're going to see people pushing not just to win, but to win by more. And secondly, you're going to see more athletes throughout the rest of the field that are trying harder to the end of the workout. Because so often, you guys talk about it on commentary all the time. You're saying, look, the last thing you want to do here is be getting on the row at the same time as someone else. And then you have to race that row. If you can position yourself to get on the row 30 seconds ahead, you can go at 90%. And then no matter how hard that guy goes, he's not going to catch you.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
But in this model, no matter who you're getting on the row, when it doesn't matter, you're going to get on the row and you're going to sell it out because you know that your performance relative to everyone else matters. Every second matters relatively.
I will say I really do like the incentivizing part. One of the things, like when I have always had, at least I think, great things to say about Rich. And every time I've asked who is better between Rich and Matt, the difference that I have always seen is Matt will always go all out. Not just enough to win, but will always go all out. So I think that like he's just kind of always used to that. Like that's just, he doesn't have to think I need to go harder. He just would always go harder. So I like the idea of incentivizing.
Which is crazy because he didn't have to. He never had to go as hard as he went.
No, but that was him as the competitor, and I think that's great. We talk about the hidden event of the CrossFit Games is how do you sustain through all those different events, and that's why I don't need. Why kill myself if I don't need to? So that I'm going to be ready for this next. I already won, so what's the point of going harder? And I guess on a fan level, I understand the idea of, it would have been cool to see, Guy go for a third lift because we know he could hit more. But again, like those are the athletes that are out there that have to battle through all of the events that they have going on. And every time you step out, you're risking. I mean, there's always a risk of, okay, if I go all out, I mean, you get an athlete that's hurt, and it's like, hey, you got to lay it all on the line. And an athlete would be like, all right, tape everything up and let's go. I'll run the wheels off. You know what I mean? If I have to, but you don't want to have to do that every single event. You are not going to have a very long career.
This system would have greatly helped Guy though, because he didn't make all the points that he could have on the explosive events, on the short events. And I was texting Brian during that competition, was like, Guy is being held up by these sprint and strength events, right? And it could be more so, but like that's where he gets most of his bread and butter, right?
Right.
The thing that I actually want to, I've been considering what my next steps are. What are the next steps for this in general? And the guys at TTT brought up some really valid points that I think hit home more so than the games do, is open and using this system in open and regionals, or well, I guess the semifinals and quarterfinals. They brought up one athlete in particular that his clean is okay, but it's not great. But if you scored him based on a performance model, he would have went from 84th to 14th and went to regionals that year.
Wow.
And so he is elite. And so you guys understand how the open leaderboard works.
Yeah.
Like if it's not how good you do, it's how bad you don't do.
Yeah, that's been the problem when you put lifts in the open.
Right.
That's a whole nother podcast.
But like if you're off on one part, and they've solved this a little bit with making like the 10% go, but like this is more so applicable now in quarterfinals and semifinals, is that if we are truly finding the fittest on earth, we better make for damn sure they get to the games, right? And they aren't getting there based on a faulty scoring system.
Interesting.
Well, and we've always said that the qualifiers aren't trying to find the fittest on earth. The qualifiers are trying to get the fittest field on earth to compete so that you have all the right people there.
I would rather see this during the Open, honestly, than the CrossFit Games. If they don't want to do that and they just want to say this is the fittest, I think this is almost more applicable in something like the Open.
Right. You're doing it on percentage anyway now.
True.
Top 10% goes. Mine is a percentile system.
That's true.
Mean,
I will say this. Like
I didn't think about that until we just started talking.
When I look at the games, I feel like there are so many events that it could, and I'm not saying that it debunks what your program is, but there's so many events that you get a well-rounded test of everything, so you have all that.
That's what Dave's argument was, right?
Totally. But like if you go to the Open and it's only 3 events, or let's say 4 because they do an extra one, now you can, using the system, you can get a much more true number. Because I mean, look at what they've had. They put the lift in there, and you'll get the guy that gets whatever 415-pound clean and jerk, and then all the other events, he's even in the mix somewhere, like more just on the bottom half, or he doesn't have any sort of engine what to speak of. Those always threw the system off, and it's like, what is this guy even doing in here? But now you can actually see, because now it puts everything on that percentile base to add it all up correctly, rather than rather than doing an average place, which we've talked about that one even in there, using average place standing. So, and that would be honestly, that'd be a great place to test it. It's not like you're not going to get the right people to go to the next stage.
Yeah, if anything, just for the quarterfinals.
Yeah,
well, and that's the thing. Like my leaderboard often mimics the leaderboard that they have now, and so it's not like you're going backwards. And it's not going to be totally different, but it does matter. Like, so if Chase, Brian, and I are in a competition, right, and I get third on every single event, and Chase and Brian, the first 2 events, let's say it's pull-ups and push-ups or something. First 2 events, pull-ups and push-ups, and Brian gets 1 less rep in both of those than Chase, right? And we're scoring it based on 5s. Leader gets 15, 10, 5, right?
Yeah.
So now Brian's behind by 10. If Brian wins the next event, he doesn't win, right?
Right.
Also, if he smashes Chase, makes him look dumb, it doesn't matter. That's not, but he is essentially as fit as Chase on the other 2 events, right?
Yeah. And
so we're seeing this in the bottom portions of the leaderboards, right? Is that these things start to add up, and people miss out when what they were good at wasn't it wasn't given enough weight, right?
I mean, we saw this in finals at the games in 2019 where, Matt was in a position behind Noah Olson, and Matt could have won every event. Noah could have got second, and there's no way he would have beat him.
It was mathematically impossible for him to win.
Mathematically impossible, but Matt could have totally dominated him and been the fitter person, but because, I don't know. I mean, yeah.
Yeah.
I guess that's part of the point you were trying to make.
Right. And what this ends up getting to, and my point being, and this goes into why cuts are bad and all kinds of other stuff, is like, say Sam Dancer misses out because the events weren't weighted properly, right? He didn't earn the points and then they have a 1 rep max deadlift at the games, and Sam Dancer didn't test and didn't have his effect on the scoring system.
Right.
That's kind of fucked up, right?
How would this system work? Yeah, how would this system buffer, like say there are cuts, how much would a wrench would that throw in?
It doesn't throw in a wrench. I mean, there's a bit of concern with the standard deviation being too large because you don't have enough data, but it's still based on everyone else. I don't have a problem with that.
Say, take this system to the 2019 games format. Do you feel like that would have been a better appropriate scoring system to filter the athletes through?
To qualify?
As the weekend went on, right? Yeah.
To ultimately get down to the top 10.
Yeah, to get your top 10.
Yeah. Yes. Yes, absolutely.
Because I think the biggest problem there was like the value of your events got greater as the weekend went on, when they should all be scored the same, but there wasn't the best way to do that with the systems that they had in place. Would this have helped that issue?
Yes, absolutely, 100%. And yeah, I don't want to that year.
We're not talking about that year.
What they did.
Well, and
appreciate
just
what they did, but
so everyone out there knows, like, how do you see, generally speaking, the less people you have, the more separation of those points you're going to have, correct?
Right.
Okay, so if you have 10 people, they do cuts and they go down to 10 people, then all of a sudden now you're going to have, you're going to have a much larger split between those places than if you had 40 across the board, or if you're in the open and you have whatever 15,000.
Well, it's also performance dependent too.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, it's going to be performance dependent, but it's also going to be on that bell curve. So if you have more people, those numbers are going to be closer together.
Tighter.
Is that right or no? Yeah.
Yeah. No, that's correct.
So would you say no cuts at all?
But yes.
Well, let's talk. Let's use examples now, because like we're making up all these scenarios. Like, but I mean, you guys have put the numbers to things. I know Brian's put numbers to things. So I want to hear some massive changes that would have happened over the years using this system.
Okay. I'll pull up.
Whoa!
Hold on to your butts. Like it's like, is this the Ark of the Covenant we're about to unleash onto the people?
Go ahead, Brian.
My face is gonna start melting.
Well, yeah, I know you've got all the numbers that you've run. I've only seen the ones you've shared with me.
Let's see. I'm trying to find one. 2015 was a mess. It is the one that has the most changes. And some of those aren't large. Like one of the notable ones, China Cho went from 14th to like 8th or something that, or 8th for 14th. Let's see. I've highlighted 4 in the top 10. Noah Olson goes from 6th to 8th. Or no, 8th to 6th. Spencer Hendel goes from 5th to 3rd. And BKG goes from 4th to 3rd. Or 3rd.
In 2015?
Yes.
Oh, wow. Well, Hendel also.
I was concerned about that one because I wondered if Ben Smith really did beat Matt Frazier.
Yeah.
And he did. He
Okay.
did very handily.
Yeah.
He did more so, actually.
More so in this system?
Yeah.
Okay.
What about on the women's side? Very happy about that one. I knew you were going to ask that.
Come on.
Let's see. Let me pull it up.
I have it here. Ketchum would have still won in that model, and actually,
really,
Sarah would have taken 2nd.
Whoa!
Yeah.
Dang. That's wild. Because Bill,
this
remember
one's the
if
one
we
that's
did
all
average?
Well, I know, and I was trying to find that document that we had that Chad sent us that had all that, the actual placing and then the average place finishing.
Well, I guess partly because like there was a large group of athletes that did 0. So
see, but that's what's so hard is it every model that we've looked at.
Well, it's not a perfect system,
it changes
right?
things. So that makes it hard. I know. So it's like, what makes it perfect? I mean, now.
Well, I think it's not perfect. It's like, is there a better one? Right? Is there a better one? And if there is, I want to entertain the idea, which is why we're having this
absolutely
discussion.
Well, that's what I was thinking about earlier. Like why I've been asking for a ton of feedback. Like why should we care, right? And this goes back to the point of like, what are we after, right? And I think the fact that all 4 of us are here, and you two being who you are, and we can't really define that all the same. That speaks poorly for CrossFit, doesn't it?
Well, I don't think it. I don't think it speaks poorly for CrossFit because I think in the we've been lucky enough, and I use that term loosely, that the goal has been who wins. We're looking for the fittest, and we've been lucky or unlucky enough to have people like Rich, like Matt, like Ben, like Tia, like Katrin, like Annie, like all of these athletes that have been able to sit at the top, and it made it very easy to say, well, that they're the fittest. And so because Matt and Tia won, well, obviously, see, it worked out. Even though we've said that, like, it even in the programming side, we've said, okay, well, even though those two won, and yes, you could probably throw anything at them and they will probably win, doesn't necessarily give the programming the stamp of approval that it was the absolute best test. And that's why we were always able to go back and look at it. Right. I don't think it speaks poorly. I think that I don't think that the fittest hasn't been found. I mean, granted, you have your the Tia Cara example, which is that's a great example, and there's a lot of stuff on there. But I think over the course of what we've done so far, there haven't been, as the winner, anything that's been that drastic. So I think for the most part, we've been doing okay, because in every other sporting event of any type, whether you're talking decathlon, whether you're talking track, whether you're talking swimming, whether you're talking who can drink their water the fastest, it's like who is your winner, and so it's to find a winner. I like the scientific idea with it. I really do. Like I said, I get very puristy when it gets into do I win or do I not win, and going that route. So
well, that's part of it too. Is like there's a lot of subjectivity to that.
100%. 100%. If you look at any sport, how do the points of the things that they choose get ranked? Like, why 3 points for a basket and 2 points for a regular shot? And all of those things, it's like all of a sudden everything gets weighted very, very differently. And what your system does is it tries to knock out all of that stuff and just be like, okay, did I beat you or did I not beat you? And how much did I beat you by? Mm-hmm. Compared to everyone else. And you either are penalized for doing worse, or you're incentivized for going on the other way. So,
Brian, I got a question up here for you. Yeah. Does scientifically finding the fittest to this degree come with a major trade-off with professionalizing the sport by growing the fan base?
I don't know why it would diminish the fan base at all. I think that I think it would actually have the potential, like I've kind of been alluding to throughout the show, to actually see like better performances on every individual workout, and to see a different kind of strategy or approach implemented within the totality of a weekend or a week-long competition, because you will still have to make decisions. Athletes would still have to make decisions. Like Bill said, if you're going to sell, you can't sell out on all 15 events and recover and perform. Like, you have to have some degree of picking and choosing when you push and when you don't. And so there would be a learning curve for the athletes to figure out how to compete best within this system. But I think ultimately it would yield like more dominating performances, more exciting moments in some cases. And it depends what you like to see. Like, do you like that Rich kept it close? If we're going to say that he did that, and it was a little bit more dramatic down the end, and then he just kind of put the foot to the throat on Sunday? Or do you like watching Fraser just win 10 out of 12 events? Do you like seeing that like total and utter domination? But either way, I don't think that the fan base would be jeopardized by this. I don't think that the professionalization of the sport would suffer.
I honestly believe that, like, as far as the fans go, I don't think they look at the numbers as much as they're watching who wins and who lost. As commentators, we would be talking about the races as it's happening. There's a lot of points that get tossed out there anyway, and I don't think people are going to go, the sport's dumb because I don't get those numbers. It would be hard. It would be very difficult to talk those numbers until they came out, because there would be a lot of like, you wouldn't be able to see everyone come across the board, and Sean Woodland at that point is not going to be able to say so and so now is going to is possibly in the lead because they just took second, and so is this, because we would have to wait for everyone to finish, and
I think that's awesome.
Then you'd have to like talk about like, okay, now, because it's almost a different point system for every single event based on how everyone did in that event,
which I don't hate. And to this question is how easy. Like it's just that's a formula. Like you just it'll like right, Tyler. Like this could something you just like
like if you went off
at the end.
If you went off like the unofficial times, like just what you're walking, I'm sure someone could sit there and type those in just as fast as they come in. You could have a rough estimate of about what the standings would be. The points would shake a little bit as you get more and more precise, but you could do it.
Yeah.
But I think back to I think it was right after push pull. The athletes didn't know, and you guys didn't know for sure who was in the lead, and then they're like, "Oh, you remember Josh Bridges saying, 'Oh shit, look who's back on top.'"
Right.
And it'd be something similar. There'd be some element of delay where they finalize the scores, but that happens all the time. And yes, occasionally, even in any system, there's always going to be a scoring dispute or whatever, and that will have to be settled in the back room, how it always is.
I don't hate that, because what for say dramatic effect from covering the sport from an entertainment standpoint is like sometimes it sucks is like, okay, this person is, and it's like, oh well, those 3 people didn't make it, so we're in the middle of the broadcast and I already know because I can do basic arithmetic that this person didn't do what they needed to do. But in this system, you're like, who knows, was that good enough to not just like get the spots that you need, but is your performance good enough above what the other person did relative to the field to get what you needed to do? So I don't think the timing of getting the numbers is really an issue. I don't think that's an issue whatsoever. I almost think the relative unknown of did that performance do enough to do the things that they needed to do? And I think part of that drama, for just drama's sake, I know this is outside of what the fittest on earth bullshit, but like, if you just want some drama and fans, and then it's like, I think that's great.
You want to know what this really resembles is the at-home Rogue Invitational, where nobody knew where anybody was, and so you had to go all out because you had no idea where anyone. This is Sam Briggs.
So Sam Briggs probably going to win the Rogue Invitational because she did 156 more reps than everybody in a snatch event.
Well, the 2020 qualifier for the games, the first half of the games, that did this, and that's the one that really like set me off was Matt Fraser's performance in Friendly Fran.
Yeah.
So like his performance, I'm looking at it now. He got Noah Olson was
like 57 seconds slower or something in a 4-minute event.
Right. Normal point system. Bill, this is what will prove you. This is what will change your mind. Normal point system. He gets 100 and Noah Olson gets 96. But because Matt didn't know where anyone would be, he murdered himself, and his points went from 100. And then Noah got 84. So he lost 12 points to Matt Fraser on that event. His performance was that much better.
And so did everyone else. They all lost more points to him.
Right.
Because there still would have been guys coming in at 92, 88, and 84. But you're already dropping the second place guy down to the 5th place points.
Dang, Brian, you could have used this when you did your comparison between Matt and Rich as you go back over the years and be like, the Matt and Tia, who was more dominant?
Oh, did you do that?
Well, I mean, because
it would be relative to the field in which you're competing against.
It's a performance-based system, and that's what your discussion was. You know what? Like I said, man, I like the idea. Just say go, and we'll see who crosses the line first. I'm just very very simple. Maybe a little bit of that.
But Bill, that's the point. You want to see everyone cross the finish line as fast as they can. You don't want to see some people saying, "Oh, those 2 guys are a mile ahead. Those 2 guys are a mile behind. I'm just going to walk it in."
Did you rescore the 2020 stage?
I did the 2020 qualifier. I haven't.
So stage
I did not
one.
do.
Stage
yeah,
one.
I did stage 1. Not the.
Did it change anything?
Finish. Let's see here. For the men, Justin Medeiros gets 2nd instead of 3rd. Let's see. Noah Olson gets 3rd instead of 2nd. Jeffrey Adler gets 7th instead of 5th. Chandler Smith goes.
Oh wow!
Yeah.
Dang. And Quant still makes it in the top 5?
Yeah, 4th. He stayed the same. Let me check the women.
Wow.
You guys continue talking. I'll check the women.
All right. Well, and that's
Sorry, I'm
and
having
this
to
is the
do it on
well. I
different
think this
tabs.
is the best example of what could be possible with this, because just like you
It was
guys are
blind.
saying, it was blind, so they were doing maximum effort. So you can really see the effect that this can have on a competition.
Right.
And based off that, I mean, there are some changes based off a scoring system. Now you could change every top 10 depending on the scoring system that you use. Right. And, which ones yield the closest performance-based metrics, which is a big thing of why I actually like this relative to what CrossFit is, because we have a scientifically based fitness program. And so it's okay if the test also reflects that based off your performance against the other people. Right. And so
Right.
I do like the similarity between the two of the test and the program itself.
Cara Saunders would have replaced Carrie Pierce.
No.
Yeah.
Oh, but then we would have never.
And that was a drastic one because Carrie was in 8th, or Cara was in 8th, and Carrie was in 5th.
But the points, like 5th through 9th on the women's side in the original model was like 9 points separated for those 5 spots or something.
Yeah, it was crazy. Yeah.
And I think Chandler only missed. But it was only like 2 points behind Adler. I mean, it was very, very tight.
Dang.
But that matters to him. I guarantee you that.
Well, yeah.
Matters.
Oh, yeah. A little bit.
One of the things I would like to know from you guys, I mean, like, I obviously have to get someone to pick this up, whether it's Wadapalooza or Rogue or whatever. I need a bigger conference. But what would wake CrossFit up to this?
Not using phrases like "wake CrossFit up."
So wait, Dave Castro is allowed to speak the way he is, but then if we speak that way towards him, it's all bad news, huh?
That's how it works.
How long have you been in CrossFit, my friend?
Yeah,
how long have you been around this?
The way the world
almost 10 years.
You know what? I would say this. I think that it would be easiest to start off with one of the big events, like whether it's Granite Games or I mean, maybe not one of like the semifinal ones, but one of the off-season ones. Because I don't think that'd be hard to do. Really hard to do. They wouldn't be losing anything, and it would be a great testing ground for that. The other thing would be to show the ease at which that could be administered. So if you had a program setup where it was whatever, it was a spreadsheet or however the setup is, where you can say, okay, you have 10 people, you have 50 people, you have 200 people, you have 1,500 people. You just input these numbers, or these numbers go in, however they get shoved in there, and it would automatically throw it up there. The easier it is, the less work that they have to do, the better chance you have of something like that. And again, it would be showing what you're trying to prove, which is, I mean, and honestly, like I don't not like the idea of saying scientifically we're finding the best. We have talked that in the history of CrossFit the whole time. So it's not incorrect verbiage to say we want to scientifically find the best person, the top person, the fittest person based on performance, because we are a performance-based sport. Not just can you work the points or work the system or whatever, but like, how do you perform? If you perform, you'll get these points. If you don't perform, you'll go in the negative direction. Yeah. And here it is. Boom, there it is.
And that's the like data way to do it. I'll speak to the political side, is like presenting it in a way of not this is what you're fucking up or this is what you're screwing up. It's like, hey, we are a part of this. Is like, we're going to take what the training methodology is, what your real goal is to find the fittest, and we're developing a way that really does showcase people's performance against the people that they're competing with in a way that makes the sport even more proof that this is the fittest person on earth, or the fittest collective 10% moving to the quarterfinals, so the top 120 moving on to the semifinals. And then, if you come from a perspective of this is a way to do it. This is the ease of which it can be done. And this is why it's so cool and so fun and so important. And honestly aligns so well with CrossFit itself. Is like, how is that person faster than me? It's like, well, how often do we say work capacity cross broad times and modal domains? Force times distance over time is your power output. You can scientifically find the fact that me doing 10 air or 100 air squats against another person, we can actually determine who did more work. That's the whole scientific base about the training methodology. That's the beauty of it. It's freaking numbers. In fact, it's like the most beautiful truth to be spoken is math. Right. And that's why I love engineering and I love mathematics, because there is no lie there. I did this more than you did. I don't care if you're 5'4" and you did 100 air squats in 45 seconds. I'm 6'2" and I did it in a minute 12, but I have way more power output than you do. And I have numbers to back that. And this scoring system aligns with that thread of the training methodology, how we define fitness that we've done with definitions, science, and all that other stuff. Is like, yeah, well, not only can I determine that, here's a scoring system that even bolsters the claim that we're making of the fittest on earth. I think that's the direction that I would go. So yeah, not
and
hey,
make sure you grab that same soapbox. Grab that soapbox.
Yeah, I've got a custom one Bill sent me for my birthday.
And I mean, that's very wise. I think Chase is on the money there. I don't think that the scoring system needs to be digestible to the common person necessarily. I think about, like, there are other sports where the scoring system is totally mind blowing to me, but I still and specifically golf. I don't know how this point systems work for the FedEx Cup. They get different points for different tournaments based on all these different things. Yeah. And there's a formula, and there's some guys that understand it. But at the end of the day, I do know that the guy who shoots the better score is going to score better.
How they determine who's going to the college football playoff in four.
Well, that's I don't know if there's any science involved.
Like, every sport has its own issues, and like there is, and the thing is, like, you guys aren't saying this, and we're not saying this. Like, there is not a perfect system, but maybe there's a better one to help bolster the claims at which CrossFit is making. And I think there is, and I think there's a way to showcase this. I do believe there's merit in here with more data, more evidence, and more things moving forward, because it is hard to sit back and go, well, this would have done this, so you did it wrong. It's like, no, because they weren't competing with that in mind. But the best examples you guys have are Rogue Invitational that was online and stage 1 of the CrossFit Games, which you showed and you proved why. And like, here's why, based off their performance, which is basically what our fitness program is all together with. I think another example, well, the one we had in the beginning is the decathlon. I was like, well, how did you get 680 points and then that person got 420, but they got second? It's like, okay, well, and that's the whole sport. And I can't think of a better sporting event that mimics the purpose of CrossFit or the CrossFit Games than something like the decathlon. You have 10 different tests of athleticism in the decathlon. You get points based off your performance. And then at the end of the weekend, you are the winner of the decathlon because of your performance based off the field that you were competing against, based off a baseline of numbers that we determined as what is good and what is not as good.
Thank God.
So I think that's probably your best example. What's that?
I said, thank God we don't have that standard part in CrossFit.
Right. And so, and that's what I'm saying is like
CrossFit
is like, here's our examples, but CrossFit is not that. It is not golf. It is not the decathlon. It is not baseball, basketball, football, or soccer. It's the sport of effing fitness. And if we're saying the sport of fitness, then we have to look at how we define that. And so you have to use that scientific definition and explanation of what is fit and what is not, and then use that in your test of fitness. So it's a completely different sport. So to judge it against any other sport that people bring up drives me freaking nuts, because it's not the same damn thing.
Well, it's no, CrossFit is not golf and CrossFit is not football or anything like that. But football isn't golf, and I mean, like, you can't compare those either. I mean, competition is competition.
No, it's just that's fine.
I'll say it that way. Tyler, what do you think? Like, when you're looking at this, what are the things that you think people are going to be like, no, like what's the con to this? What would be the bad point to using this scoring system? If you draw this on the line, you draw the line using this scoring system, and someone is on the opposite end of the spectrum, on the other side of the line. They don't get to qualify for the games. They're not on the podium, whatever. What is going to be their complaint?
My Gabby McGawas out there, who I apologize to. I'm so sorry for picking.
No, I mean, totally.
But they're not going to like that they can't game it. So like you get 10 points behind somebody. You're like, I know I gotta get 2 people between me and them, right? Or I gotta get this many people. They're not going to like that they can't game it. And then I think that's the main thing for athletes. They're not going to like that they can't game the system. But for the ones in the middle, it doesn't matter anyway.
Do you think that they can actually game? I mean, they can hope that they can get 2 spots ahead. And we talk about when we're broadcasting all the time, okay, so-and-so needs a little help here. And there's one of them. Oh, nope, the other one didn't make it through, so sorry for you. I mean, like they didn't have the opportunity of gaming that. They just kind of rolled the dice to hope that they gotta do their part by placing a certain whatever. But then it's
that
roll the
illusion
dice
isn't there though. They're not going to be able to even think about that. They're just going to be like, I know I need to do better.
No, I think I completely disagree with this argument. I think that this is perfect for the athletes. Now you have, like if you're Pat Vellner coming into the last day and you're saying, well, even if I beat Justin on all 3 of these workouts, if he takes second, I can't do anything about it. Instead,
Just
he can come in and say, no, instead, Vellner can come in with the mentality, I'm not going to beat him. I'm going to demolish him. I'm not going to beat him by 1 rep. I'm not going to beat him by a minute. I'm going to beat him by 2 minutes. I'm going to do it, because I can gain more points relative to him than I was able to do in the other system.
So the system now doesn't make you think of damage control. It makes you think of positive. How much do I need? How much do I need to beat everybody by?
Well,
not how much do I need to not get beat by?
Depends on where you fall heading into that event. Because to Medeiros' quick point, which I think Chase was jumping to, now Medeiros goes, I don't actually have to beat him at all. I just have to stay right behind him.
Yes.
And so I can just say as close as I need to. And instead of giving up 5 points because he got first and I got second, I might only give up 1.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I mean, though. You never think of the other way. You never think of the top end, how bad I have to beat everybody by. It's just how bad do I not need to get beat by?
It takes your own destiny back into your control, because we just saw Annie talk about this with Tia Toomey. He's like, is Tia beatable? Yes, but we need help. They're like, that's bullshit. Like, I have to rely on other people to help me beat you. How about I just effing beat you? Yeah. Right? Instead of Pat Vellner coming into the final event 35 points down and be like, Pat's get first, Justin gets second. It doesn't matter what the time is between. You're only going to get 6 points. Or Pat sets the world on fire and beats Justin by so much, he gets those points because of his performance, not because no one else could middle him and Justin. So I actually like this for something at the final day of competition, because it puts more emphasis on athletes having their own destiny in their own hands, and it's solely based off their performance, based off the other rest of the field. Not, well, I crushed everybody, but no one else stepped up to the plate to get me between 3 other people. So I do like that as a possibility.
I do think that that one drawback is the different variety of events. Because you have events that are for time, events that are for reps, events that are for weight, events that are bracket style elimination by round. And there, I know that Tyler's worked with some of these, and even he and Brent Fikowski had a little conversation in the comments of his article about it. But I think there are some variables in that regard that would need to be like really thought through. And it could and I don't know that for all of those different models of a test or an event that this model works well enough. So you might actually have to eliminate some competition styles. I haven't run that through, but there'd have to be some conversation around that.
Right. I've had my issues with the like obstacle course race style events where you cut people and they don't make it into the next round. But I mean, we know we can use placement. I think placement almost matters more in those events in some way. Like you're measuring your ability to compete more than you are your fitness, so to speak. Like you're measuring your ability to not screw up more than you are your fitness in some ways. And so it's like a placement system doesn't seem unreasonable in that event for me. And so it's like a bit of a mixed system could be used as well.
Yeah.
But at the moment, we're not measuring performance at all. And
Right.
like, I know I come off a bit harsh, and I know I come off a bit aggressive, and I really don't mean to do that.
You're just
but, like,
passionate. I understand that.
Well, I care, and like,
yeah.
it really is about. I mean, I came in 2012, and that's what it seemed like to me. Like, what can this thing do? And that's what we cared about. And so it's like I wanted to bring us back to that. It seemed like we got lost in some way.
I see what you're saying.
And so, yeah.
One thing is you talked about Brent Fikowski, and I'm just thinking of ways that you can get this in front of more people. Is bring this to the PFAA. Talk to them about it, how it can be applied to competition, because there's a lot of people involved with the PFAA that are heavily involved with these off-season competitions. And
Gotcha.
maybe if you can get in with them, is that, okay, we are going to apply this to an off-season competition that has no bearing on the CrossFit Games season whatsoever, and see what this does, because it does reward performance. One of the questions that came up, and this is, again, people said this a lot, is that rewarding specialists is like, it would, I would say, in maybe like a small event sample size, like take the last chance qualifier. I don't know if you guys looked at that, but it's like 25% of the last chance qualifier had a max deadlift in it. 25% of the score was centered around that. Like, there's going to be huge number skews based off that. But if you have a balanced test, like you do see at the CrossFit Games more often than not, that has 13 or 15 events, the programming itself, if it is a balanced test of fitness, should only bolster the system that you use to score it with.
Right. All you have to do is make the 900-pound back squatter run more than a mile, and then we've fixed that, problem.
Right. And so, yeah, the programming could screw that up, but that's also part of the point, right? You're not going to judge the scoring system because the programming is screwed up. Like, you judge the programming.
Well, then we start to analyze. If we use this system, we start to analyze and we already do analyze programming, but we start to be able to analyze it a bit closer. Why did Guy get basically 3 events that he could just smash? Was this really weighted, well enough? And now we can put some numbers about maybe it wasn't weighted well enough.
And he's just a power athlete, so he won all.
And
the
he's just a power. Yeah.
That's just that's it, right? He won a sprint, he won the snatch, and he won clean. Like, that's
right.
He should, and he also got dead F and last in the long distance event, so it all worked out.
I'm sorry to pick on you, Guy. If Guy ends up listening to this, just you're easy.
Well, he's one of those hot, cold athletes. I mean, look at any athlete that was like that. Jordan Troyan was a good example, but I think early Brent Fikowski was a great example of that.
Oh, he's
right.
Perfect
2016 Brent Fikowski either won or lost.
Right.
Like, he was total Ricky Bobby back and forth, and now he's become more balanced over the years. We've seen the same thing with Brooke Wells back in the day. Right, Brooke Wells is going to win every event that's less than 2 minutes and over 99% of everybody's 1-rep maxes, but she's going to get dead last in the distance events. And so there is a balance there. And yeah, if it was a 3-event thing and one of them was a max back squat, this system really doesn't work that well because the programming isn't well balanced.
Right.
But
Brooke
like
Wells,
anything, it's like we're
Brooke
not.
Wells
staying...
was an interesting outlier in 2015. Actually, Jason or Tyler didn't mention it, but she would have moved up from 16th to 8th in his model that year.
Okay, well, and that's because half the events were less than 5 minutes in the 2015 CrossFit Games. Like, what would Dan Bailey have gotten to? I mean, I'm just like asking you, like, you can just think of this off the top of your head, but like,
I'd have to pull it up. Hold on, give me a second for my computer dies.
He just moved up from 5th to 4th.
Okay, so he didn't make the podium, but like,
Or no, or he dropped actually from 4th to 5th.
Oh, really?
Because Spencer jumped up 2 spots.
Oh, because Spencer went up to 3rd.
Yeah.
Yeah, but there was a lot of power and there's a lot of short events in the 2015 CrossFit Games. Right, Bill? We had like the 3 to 5 minute workouts, like half of them almost in that realm.
Yeah.
So
that was a wild games.
Yeah, it was. But I think, look, guys, I know we're having some fun with the discussion, but I think the way we're getting to the end here is I think the biggest part is like, it's a great discussion to have. And I think it's a discussion that needs to be had in a really healthy kind of way. And I feel like we showed that tonight, because there are holes to poke in every system that we have. And the fact that we can go back and forth is like, okay, this works well, this not so much. This is like, that's just the point. It's like, We're not saying we've fixed the CrossFit Games with this system, right? A lot of things also are important. And the number one thing, and I think we can all agree in, is that the programming, number one, has to be there, right? The test must be a balanced test of fitness. So the first thing we do is look at the programming. And then the second thing we do is what's the best scoring system we can apply to this programming with the athlete's performance that works simultaneously together to determine your fittest field.
Yeah, right. and I have to say, like, we have modified that scoring system so many times and adjusted it so many times. I would honestly love to see, why not give it a try? Why not give it a try on either one of the stages or at some of the bigger off-season events to see what that does, rather than just copying and pasting what's been put out there. I mean, why not give it a shot? Like I said, man, I have my own special. I'm a very simple person when it comes to a lot of things and very purist about it. But I really, dude, I like the energy. I like what you put into it. It's really hard not to say that it looks very good. I mean, even with the specialist thing, all it's really going to do is make people really get after it.
And should at the Legends Masters Championships coming up.
Yeah,
throw that out there.
Yeah, totally.
Why not just throw it on a bunch of lab rat old Masters people? Nobody gives a shit. I mean,
they don't care.
Let's see what happens.
Drink a beer afterwards anyway.
Yeah.
Look, Tyler, I love the concept. I love the discussion. I love your passion. Number one, I think we're all in that same boat because we all have our soapboxes in every different way. Bill's is the purest sport. I just get rattled and then I go off. And Brian has his. Like, we all have that, right? And so that's one thing we share in common. And I think that's the one thing we also respect about each other is that we have these discussions not because we don't care, it's because actually we really do, and we care in a way that we want to see the sport progress, right? And so we come from an avenue and a direction of love and passion. Is like, yeah, when I say you fucked up, it's because I just want it to be better because I do love this stuff so much, and I think there is a better way or a new way that we should at least entertain and look at. And so I think that is the common theme for all four of us in this discussion, is that it's passion for the sport of CrossFit, it's passion for the CrossFit Games, and it's passion of how can we make this better for everyone, including the athletes, including the fans, and including the community.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, I tell my brother he fucked up. Somebody I don't care as much about, I just tell him, you probably shouldn't have done that. And my brother, I reach out and say, hey, stop doing that. Mm-hmm. And it's not that I'm telling them, that you're totally screwing it up. I understand why you got to where you got to. I totally get it. And I don't blame you for it. I just think we'd be shooting ourselves in the foot to not reassess the situation and say, can we do better? And I think we can. And
that's never a bad question, man.
No.
Yeah.
It's never a bad question. Can we do this better?
Everybody should be asking that question every day. Yeah. I think it's a total. If anyone's not asking that question in any facet, they're doing the wrong thing, right? What I did today is not good enough for tomorrow. Tomorrow needs to be a better day. So what can we do better? What can we do better, fans out there? Oh, well, hey guys, I think that's a great way to close things off. Tyler, thank you for joining us. Brian, as always, I love having your numbers to back and just seeing your face, even though it's covered by all that hair. Bill, pleasure. Hey, Bill, have fun in Arizona celebrating your dad, my friend.
Yeah. My dad's getting inducted into the National Wrestling Hall of Fame.
What?
A Lifetime Wrestling Achievement Award.
Yep. Nice.
Pretty awesome. Thank you guys for joining us tonight. We'll see you guys on the next episode. Hope you guys like the stream. We like the live content because we got more of those coming down the road. All right, guys, you have a good night. We'll see you guys next time.
Later.